Can we get started? We have kind of a
Sit down, Bob.
Thanks, I'm sorry. It's a very festive crowd of the holidays, and I love that, but we have a list of things to get accomplished. Welcome. Happy holidays and all that good stuff. We will call the meeting to order and start with reviewing the board minutes from November 18th. Has everybody had a chance to look at those?
Yes.
Any additions or corrections or deletions?
Maybe just a comment on part 6. On the small large discussion, I know it states that each board member discussed their position. We may want to specify what that was for the minutes and for the record.
And I did not speak, actually, so it's in.
Yeah.
Then on same section, 6A1, it could read, and inform the CBU had been contacted regarding a possible class action lawsuit, since I guess it was never filed. That was one
Okay.
Mike pointed out. And then I would like under 3, that's my opinion, so I guess it should be stated that that's an opinion. And I'd like it to say that my opinion was mostly regarding cost per cubic yard.
Thank you for that. I also had a correction under public comment. I believe Susan reported that there was 800 toward the 3,000 goal on the endowment. Have I got that right, Susan?
I think that was the case at the time and is now increased to
Okay, I think-
1,500.
Oh, terrific. Well, I just wanted to make the point that I think it was said that nothing had been collected, but I think we had 800 toward,
That is true, nothing has been collected, it's still pledges.
but pledged, correct? Is that a better word? Pledged? Okay. All right. That's poor James, we just flooded you with. Give you a minute to catch
Get all
up.
that.
Yeah.
I'll move we accept the minutes with the changes noted.
I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we approve with the changes noted. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. Lance, your treasurer's report.
Currently just passing down the Treasury report for the month of November. As kind of indicated, not a whole lot of excitement going on. Everything basically at the lake has quieted down. So obviously the income for the month is going to be down quite substantially at $952. We did collect some boat permit and launch fees, but that was about it for the month. Don't anticipate too much else coming in for the end of the year, with the exception obviously is we'll get the tax payments in sometime this month, so that'll be reflected. Expenses wise, we're continuing to manage very, very well. Really mainly for the month of November, just the regular salaries that we have going on there is the main thing. No other real major expenses and such hit the line. So as to be anticipated, we're running at a deficit for the month, but we do anticipate obviously the tax revenue coming in, and things should work out well there. For the year, I think unbeknownst any surprises, we should end up pretty well, so hopefully we'll have a good year-end report for you there. Cash flow and cash wise, we're doing very well for this time of year. We have approximately $298,000 in the checking account. Our general fund CDs, we have $116,000, and then our cumulative maintenance fund CDs, we have $76,000 in that. Obviously no other really liabilities to speak of, and certainly would be open to any questions regarding the report.
Are there questions concerning this report? Anybody? Everybody's had a chance to look? How about you folks? All right.
Basically, it's before you in the packet. We have the November 2015 report of claims. Claims are, again, things are going down to $3,620.14. Didn't know if there's any questions in regards to the claims that have been presented. And if not, if I could get a motion for approval of the claims report as presented.
I'll make that motion, Lance.
I'll second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Next on the agenda is we have one of our cumulative maintenance funds. coming up for renewal. It does come up on the 20th of the month. We're basically given several different interest rate options to choose from anywhere from 6 months at a whopping 0.3% interest, although hopefully the Fed did raise funds rate today, to 24 months, which goes up to 0.65% interest. Probably it is my recommendation. This is kind of our rainy day fund that we don't get into too much, that we just add to. It's part of that $5,000 budget line item that we basically roll that CD over for 2 years and add the additional $5,000, so it'll be a total of a $10,000 CD for year end. Is there any questions in regards to that recommendation? Now, if I could have a motion for an approval, renewing the CD for 24 months.
I move.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. And last but not least, on the treasurer's report, every year at this time during this month, we just kind of have to go in and kind of balance out the books, so to speak. Basically, as Conservancy District, we operate under one fund, but we have several different line items under that fund, so we have to kind of balance everything out and kind of shift some monies around. So it has been proposed that we are going to shift some money. We had some money built in from the dredging loan this year of $43,000, and we're going to shift it down to the various line items as presented below in the sheet in your packet, just to basically even them all out so they'll all be at a positive balance there. Is there any questions to
21, page 21.
Thank you.
the transfer as funds as presented?
I just have one. Will that money be returned when we get our tax money at the end of this month?
It's projected, so we're projecting that tax money come. It's expenses, it's not income.
Okay.
So we're just reallocating the expense lines.
Okay.
Some we were over, some we were under, and so we just got to even it out.
All right.
Okay. And if no further questions, if I could have a motion of approval to transfer the funds.
I'll move that we transfer the funds as you specified.
A second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
It's
Okay,
still you.
Still me. That's the end of my report. Okay.
Now you put another hat on.
Put another hat. Somewhere around here. And then we have some extras that could go around too and out to the audience if need be.
Go that way.
Any more of these? Part of my duty is to also provide an insurance review for the Conservancy District, for this year. Basically, the insurance that we have comes up for renewal every January 1st. So as part of the procedures we go through is, we do kind of go through and present the renewal to the board. So within the packet, we do have the insurance renewal as it comes in this year. Give you a little update on the insurance market. Not a whole lot of excitement going on. It's basically been a pretty dull market this year. Haven't had any major catastrophes hit the hit the industry. There's a lot of capital in the industry right now. The only negative that we have is that the interest rates, have been, artificially low. And insurance does make quite a bit of money on investment returns, so that hasn't been forthcoming. And so most of what we've been seeing rate-wise has been pretty flat in terms of a lot of renewals, industry-wide kind of coming into play. So this year, basically, we did look at Bliss McKnight, who currently handles the program for the Conservancy District. They did provide us a renewal. We also approached the Travelers Corporation, but they did decline to quote, as they still have some concerns, regarding our dam. As it's classified as high risk due to the amount of property damage that could be done if the dam would fail. Realistically, the operations of the Conservancy District haven't changed overall, over the course of this past year. So really on kind of the spec sheet, I went through all the variety of, coverages that we have from a property standpoint. We do provide insurance to cover all the various buildings around the Conservancy District. We do kind of do that on a blanket basis, so we have about a total of $158,000 of coverage there, with a small amount of coverage for what we call personal property of $11,702 for kind of the furnishing of the house. A lot of the equipment and stuff that we own is actually covered, elsewhere under an inland marine policy. So we do have, a $500 deductible, included in that as well. And we do provide, business income up to about $25,000 in regards to if we would ever lose income as a result, of a covered loss in that effect. If you kind of read through the packet, there are a lot of variety of coverages that do come in to the property. Won't spend a whole lot of time. A lot of them, really doesn't apply to the Conservancy District, but certainly would be open to answer if anybody has any questions to any of those coverages. Yes?
I was asking James about kayak rental, and he said that you found out that the insurance is too high for that.
It could be on the scale that we do. I would have to go back because I haven't researched that recently. But I know when we looked into the past, the pricing of it is, pretty high. They look at minimum premiums.
So I wonder, a long time ago when we closed the beach, one of the reasons for closing the beach is because they said the insurance would be too high for liability. And then after some of us dug into the insurance at that time, we found out that for drowning or anybody at the beach, it was already covered in the blanket.
It's under the liability.
And
yeah.
I know when people, I used to have 15 kayaks, now I have 9 kayaks at my guest houses. The first thing people say is, oh, a kayak, it's gonna tip over. And the first thing I say is, it's harder to tip over than a canoe because we aren't on rapids. And I feel like if you go to an insurance company and says, we're gonna rent kayaks, they're gonna think rapids as opposed to that. And you might, I was wondering if you get a quote, if you could get a quote also for canoes or rowboats, or used to be rowboats. I just feel that it's just, we could have so much more income and so much more enjoyment and actually a draw to the lake if we had those, like the kayaks at Menards that are just perfectly fine, like $125 a piece. And there's good, easy ways to rent those out and to have it work. I know a whole system you could have it work. So I'd like you to look into that in more detail. I actually spoke with Rachel Atz today, Atz, whatever her name, from the water department about it. And she says, well, look, Grippy Lake has it, and I knew that I already had a call into the Grippy Lake people, and I didn't get a hold of them. The woman called me back and said, well, she didn't know, but she could talk to the insurance, and they feel fine about their boat rental. So
they're under a little different because that's, under a city, so they have a pretty large, what they call self-insured retention. So the city actually covers a lot of that under their own, and the insurance companies don't kick in until the higher dollar amount.
well, would they, I mean, is there really a big liability? Because if we are already covered for drowning,
Yeah, it's an additional exposure that they'd be concerned with, somebody being out in the middle of the lake. But yeah, I could talk to you offline about it in a little bit more detail if you like.
okay.
Yeah. Is there any other questions in regards to properties or whatnot? Okay.
If we bought more equipment, we would add more under the mobile and contractors equipment then?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's, we'll go over that. That's where the barge and all that would come into play. Or that. Crime coverage, basically we do have kind of what we call a blanket bond to cover the positions for the handling of money, up to $100,000 there. Do have some money built in for monies and securities for cash and stuff at the gatehouse at about $10,000. And then as Andy just asked, mobiles and contractors equipment, we do have upwards of about $323,000 in total coverage. And basically that covers, all the, what we consider mobile equipment. That's your barge, your excavators, the articulated truck, basically a lot of the stuff that's used out in dredging. In addition, that also includes the floating dock that we have at the ramp as well. Yes?
Yeah, I was looking at the crime issue and something just popped into my head. And for those of you who may not live in Bloomington and Monroe County, who seem to have an issue with public civil servants overstepping their grounds when it comes to handling cash, credit cards and things to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, of money that is spent that isn't theirs. They often go to jail or they don't. So my question, having proposed that very pregnant issue, is I recently learned that there's a bonding opportunity for people who handle cash flows and things, and I'm wondering if we do that, and if we don't, why we don't. I mean, I'd rather
Yeah, you
protect
do.
our staff from this kind of thing and make sure that we're covered.
That crime coverage, the employee dishonesty, that's what it is. It's a bond.
So where is the bonding? Is that?
Yeah, you gotta, yeah, we
within
have,
these?
yeah, it's in the crime, that's $100,000. That's
And so
essentially, that's what employee
You're
dishonesty.
watching the new employees are bonded, including everybody that works
Yeah.
at the gatehouse, and everybody goes through that criminal check thing. and-
Right, and what we do on the bonding side is you can do a blanket, and so basically it covers the organization, not a specific.
And somebody's auditing, clearly they're auditing, but I know that this stuff fell through the city stuff, so I'm
Yeah.
just wondering what we're doing to minimize that risk.
Well, we got a different set of eyes. I mean, internally I look at it, we have our bookkeeper, Shirley Watkins, look at it and such, so there's several steps that it goes
Is
through.
there anything that prevents, is there an account, like cars coming in, that prevents pocketing of money at the gatehouse?
Terms of
Not
cash.
that anybody would, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to minimize getting people into trouble.
Yeah, in terms of cash, no, it's difficult to monitor cash.
So
All the
there you go.
passes are numbered in there,
Yeah.
so we'll give them a allotted amount of passes and make sure receipts add up and.
So there's an auditing
Yeah.
process of numbers in, unless people are really hiding the ball,
Yeah,
you're
I
able to
mean,
track,
most,
okay.
most stuff, I mean,
I just hate for someone to
Trying
be
to get a credit card machine, right?
Yeah.
tempted and then end up in trouble because we
Yeah.
didn't do our.
It's always a
due
risk,
diligence.
yes.
I'm just curious, what is fine arts?
It's an add-on coverage. Basically, if we have a Picasso in the gatehouse, it would be covered. Yeah.
Is the word?
They give an endorsement, they throw a whole bunch on there, but some of it applies, not all of it does. But that, it gets it at market value instead of at replacement cost, essentially. The main key on, mobile equipment, we do have $1,000 deductible on all the mobile equipment with the exception of the floating dock. The floating dock is a $500 deductible. Mobile equipment does cover it wherever it is at, so it's not specific to property. It would cover the equipment if the equipment does get submerged in the water. Obviously we're a little bit unique in that way. The only downside is there's no real way to cover getting it out of the water. So that would be at cost, but we would cover the damage and stuff to the equipment, that occurred as a result of that. Kind of moving on real quickly, general liability is, the big thing. Basically that's, bodily injury, property damage for a third party. That comes out as a result of the negligence of the Conservancy District. We do have $1 million occurrence limit for a general liability policy. In addition to that, we have another $3 million, umbrella that basically sits on top of it, so a total of $4 million altogether. Basically, the general aggregate and product aggregate and personal advertising injury is different ways that, insurance companies kind of break down. Each occurrence is kind of the premise, liability, so that would be your trip and fall if something would happen at the park or things of that nature. And the personal and advertising injury is kind of your libel, slander. So if you say something about somebody else that's not true and they don't like it, that would cover that on that regards. Damage to premises rented to you really doesn't apply to the Conservancy because we really don't rent anything. We own all of our properties, but that would come into play if we would have to go into a lease agreement or something along that line. We do have errors and omissions coverage for the Conservancy, obviously being kind of a municipality. It's a benefit, so we do cover from our professional duties there. In addition to civil rights liability, we do have $1 million of coverage because we do get into some enforcement actions and things of that nature. So again, if a suit would ever be brought against us as a result of those actions, we do have coverage built in. And it's hard to believe, but I have seen some cases of it. We are covered for incidental life-saving and rescuing services. There has been cases that people have sued you if you've tried to, unfortunately, save their life in the process. The big thing I think with commercial liability is to understand what it covers and what it's not designed to cover. And again, the key thing is we cover, property damage and bodily injury to a third party, not necessarily to what work that we do. So if we are doing dredging operations and do damage, to somebody's property as a result of that operations, we would pay for damage to that property, but we wouldn't pay whatever we have to do to fix the work that we did that resulted in that damage. So that's something with liability. I know that occasionally gets a little bit confusing and stuff out there. A couple other key things to think about is things like pollution, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Pollution is a major exclusion that you'll see on a lot of liability properties. So, fuel gets out and such. With the one big exception is if it is used to operate mobile equipment. So, if we would have leaks or whatever on the hydraulics or whatnot, from the equipment out on the lake, there is some coverage built in to the policy for that as well. Any questions on general liability? Okay. Directors and officers and basically employment practices. We do have a D&O policy. It does provide coverage for the board of $1 million. That covers the board for the fiduciary duty. In addition to it covers for employment practices, which would be hiring, firing, things of that nature. The conservancy, if an employee gets upset and sues us for harassment, that type of thing would be covered under that policy as well. Commercial auto is also included with the $1 million liabilities. Again, the umbrella would also sit on top of that, for an additional $3 million as well. And, we do have basically, the autos covered with full coverage, comp and collision, very similar, to what you would have your personal autos covered under that.
And that's gone down, actually. That's the one that's gone down over
Yeah.
time. And I was just wondering why that was. Everything else is either going up or staying the same.
Autos are basically valued at ACV, what we call actual cash value. So, if you wreck your car, they're not going to pay you to go out and get a new car. They pay to repair the damage or pay what the depreciated value of the car is. And that's why auto goes down, because each year your autos are getting a little bit older and, depreciate a little bit more.
But we got a new truck.
But we got a new truck, absolutely.
Okay.
I did provide some data in terms of basically on the property of what buildings we are insuring and how much we're insuring those for. And then also provided some data in terms of the equipment, what values we're insuring the equipment for. As I mentioned, overall, basically from a renewal and a premium standpoint, our renewal did come in very flat this year as compared to what we've paid in the past. The main change that we had is that it occurred last year is our workers' compensation did jump up. We did have a claim several years ago under work comp, basically on the dredging equipment. They did pay out, about $49,000 to $50,000 on that claim. And work comp is actually experience rated. And so basically they do count the claims that they pay against you. And that's kind of through what we call an experience mod factor, which is basically the state compulates that for us and then applies it to you based on your experience and how you performed compared to others, similar duties. So with that, we spiked on our experience mod last year at 1.5. It has gone down to 1.43 this year, so we are seeing a downward trend. And then hopefully, we got one more year with that claim left, and then it would fall off, and then, our mod factor would actually drop down quite a bit below 1. So we should see a pretty good reduction
Can
there.
someone catch me up? Why do we have a mod of 1.4?
A couple years ago, and we had an accident with dredging in the articulated truck. Person, I think, just bounced up and kind of wrenched their back pretty bad. Okay.
What were we at prior to that? What was our mod rate?
Part of that, we were at
8 or something?
0.83, yeah, 8.6. So I would have to go back and look, because that's been the only claim we've had. Yeah, we've
Before you get too far away, statement of values, how often do we update the building statement of values?
sit down and review it every year.
Every year? Okay. Some of those seem a little low. I think it'd be hard to replace some of those buildings if it was a total loss, but I don't. Anyone? Guess we'll figure it out if we have a loss.
Well, we did two things. We do evaluate it every year, and then that's one of the reasons we do a blanket.
Okay. It would
we could
cover
pull-
anything up and above that.
Yeah, I mean, we could pull from that total value if we need to.
Okay.
So, it's always hard because you never know. If you have a tornado go through and you have a lot of property damage, obviously, building costs are going to go up dramatically.
Mhm.
And so we always try to put a little bit of margin of error in there.
Okay.
Will the remodeling impact us a bit of the office in terms of?
Not really, because we look at replacement cost, and so we look at it from the fact that if we do have to do it, we'll put it back as it was new.
Oh, okay, okay.
So a little bit different from the auto where we depreciate it, with buildings and property, we do not.
Gotcha.
Again, just put a couple of my notes there. A couple key things that I, wouldn't, kind of keep in mind, and maybe just a couple of recommendations, as we move forward. Again, number one, pollution is something that, we need to kind of be aware of. And the interesting thing is, by definition and by insurance definition, pollution is basically could be anything that's in where it should not be. So literally, if you have somebody driving a 15,000 gallons of milk across the causeway and the milk leaks out into the lake, that's pollution. So it may be something that we need to kind of keep aware of, because obviously some of the stuff that we do, with dredging and stuff could lend to some of the pollution exposures there. The other thing is just kind of going down further in the agenda, the one big exclusion under general liability is for electronic data. So basically that's what we call cyber liability. And now that we're getting into credit cards, just something to be aware of. That if that information would get hacked or somebody would get that information from the Conservancy District, that would be an additional liability to us to kind of keep in mind. So hopefully we use the old-fashioned phones, lines, because they're actually the most secure. But again, as we get more and more into the electronic age, it's something to kind of keep in mind there. Any questions over anything?
Someone injured by pollution liability, the umbrella would not cover that?
That is a good point, and the answer is yeah.
What about cyber?
Cyber would be probably excluded. And the reason that's a real good question is, the umbrella could come in various forms. That could be what they call a true umbrella policy, which basically what you call broaden as well as expands your liability coverage, or it could be just what they call an excess, which basically all it does is sit over the top of what your existing coverages are. So it's not going to cover anything that's not covered under the general liability. Cincinnati is an umbrella. So they don't, they have a different set of exclusions and such, as compared to, what your, general liability policy would be. So yeah, there could be areas where it does drop down and cover and the general liability, declines it.
Nice job, Lance, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I need to excuse myself or whatever, if there's any discussion.
Is there any further discussion on that report? I think we're okay. All right. You and John again, we have the conflict of interest forms that we can start with you since or if you need a break with your voice, we can. Every year we have to have people who provide us services, i.e. Lance and John, being the owner of the marina, refile these conflict of interest forms. So do you have those forms for the?
I've got John's.
You got them? Okay.
I thought I brought it.
We have a lot of papers tonight, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll get that to him.
Okay, John, you've already given yours to James?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very well. Okay, next up, manager's report. Adam, you have a
All
long
right.
list.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good? Going to the manager's report. First, we'll start off with the approval of 2016 agreements. First one that we have is the surplus parcel sublease agreement. It has not changed from last year. Rates are the same, $190 for the sublease. You get a break if you pay it before March 1st. It goes to $150. If everybody's had a chance to look over this, I'd like to go ahead and request a motion to approve.
I move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the 2016 surplus parcel agreement, which is unchanged from last year. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next up, we have the commercial surplus parcel sublease, and really the only one this applies to now is for the porthole dock, Sands and Sands property, to allow them to have a commercial dock that customers can use. Rates have stayed the same. It's $500 for the year. It's pretty much exactly the same as last year, just updated dates. Rates have stayed the same. There's no new change in the garage. So I'd like to go ahead and request a motion to approve the commercial surplus parcel agreement. If everyone's had a chance to look at it.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded that we accept the 2016 commercial surplus parcel agreement for the porthole. Any discussion?
I have just a little.
Okay.
How is that different from the guys that operate the boat lift business?
That's actually something that I have on here under discussion for lake use agreements.
Okay.
Really, all I can say to that is they have a physical location that they're operating from, and that dock is for commercial. As far as people that operate the boating there, generally, there's only one I know that keeps it on the water. Technically, it's not a storefront location, but they do store a boat there on a sublease. And that's something, I guess we could jump to that discussion now if we want. It's been brought up a couple times, and actually I've been asked to put on the agenda, or if we want to start looking into people doing dock and lift services.
I would be okay to discuss that in January if the board is so inclined, but I think that's something we need to bring up for this type of agreement for commercial. I think that we have more than one.
Yeah, I think they keep I guess on the water boats all the time. We've had at least 2, and then there's 3 to 4 that do it. So
If you could get those people that have those lifts for January, I'd be okay with that.
Well, let's fit.
Also, the fishing guide services was the other one that we questioned whether or not.
And I don't know if we have one of those. If we have,
I know there's one company that comes out.
New or?
I haven't heard of the fishing guide. Okay.
I know there's at least 1 or 2 that do come out, and I mean they put an ad in the newspaper or an article about the crappie fishing. And we know who they are, and I really think we should have charge some money if they're making money.
Okay.
So have a professional or a guide service type pass, and
Okay.
that should be great.
Let's finish the vote on this, if it's okay with you all, on the commercial surplus for the porthole. It's been moved and seconded.
I think discussion became first. Has it been moved? Has it been moved?
It was moved and seconded, and then we discussed a little, but we're kind of jumping down, but
Okay.
should we go ahead and take the vote on the surplus?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
All right, next, professional services agreement. First, we have First Insurance Group. Payment for services for 2016 is $41,572. I'm not positive how much that went up since last year, Lance. Can you?
It's actually, if you look in your packet,
It's in here.
Yeah, it's in there.
I did a 3-year run of what the premiums were.
Second to last.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually went down about $300.
Other than that, the verbiage is the same, just the price $41,572 for 2016. They've been holding our insurance and doing that for quite a bit now, so if there's no questions or comments, I'd like to go ahead and seek a motion to approve the professional services agreement with First Insurance Group.
I'll make the motion that we approve First Insurance Group for the insurance.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the First Insurance Group agreement. Is there any discussion? Are we ready to vote? And you'll recuse yourself?
abstain,
Okay.
yes.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, professional service agreement with Watkins Accounting. The rates have stayed exactly the same, not increasing at all. They've been doing a really good job. I like working with them. So if everybody's had a chance to read over the professional service agreement with Watkins Accounting, I will seek a motion to approve that.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the Watkins Accounting Services Agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next I have professional service agreement with Carmen Parker. Angela Parker has been our attorney out here for a long time, I think since the formation of the Conservancy District. Been a great company to work with, really responsive. Rates did increase by about $25 per hour for attorney services. That'd be $175 per hour for attorney services and $90 for paralegal services. But if we've had a chance to look over it, the rest of the agreement is the same. I'd like to go ahead and seek a motion to approve that.
I'll move.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We renew the legal services agreement with our Carmen Parker attorneys. Is there discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, lake use agreements, I guess we'll push that off till the January and have a little more discussion on that, I guess with regards to dock and lift services, commercial fishing, and
Yeah.
I think we should do something with that.
Andy, you good with that? I know you really wanted to see us talk about it.
No, I'm happy that we started talking about it, so that is exactly
Great.
what I wanted.
Perfect.
One of my concerns, just to interject, is since we are a public reservoir and we're open to the public in the city and all that, I'm wondering if there is going to be a limit on how much we could charge per boat, per day, or per season. So that may be something to consider as well.
Okay.
We may be, city ordinances may prevent us from charging a commercial fee.
Something to look into.
Yeah, maybe
Good for you, I
next
don't know.
meeting.
Okay, we'll talk about that in January.
It may be something we would need to ask
I'll
the
do-
lawyer to do.
Cost $175.
I'll do some
Paralegal is
research into that for January, into our current contract. We'll
Paralegal
talk about
95?
it.
There's 95, yeah, so.
Okay.
All right, credit card acceptance. It's about to be 2016. We're yelled at all the time for not accepting credit cards. It's about time that we do. When I first started looking, I talked to People's State Bank. They put me in touch with Priority Payment Systems. We've looked at a couple other local people, and then the Priority, and the rates seem to be pretty similar. What I like about them is the equipment was a lot cheaper. Some of the other companies are looking for close to $800 for the year to rent out the equipment. They sell it for $250 for the new credit card readers, pins. The rates are in here.
Are these chip readers?
Yeah, we'll have
Okay.
the chip reader. It'll go through the phone lines. It'll be most secure, and that way, in case
Okay.
you lose the internet.
Yeah, because I just had $3,000 on my credit card stolen 2 weeks ago, so then they're done that. They don't even have our card. They cloned our card, our number.
So essentially, what would happen is it's 1.4% is a qualified rate. So we charge every time we run the credit card, it's 1.4% of the cost. There's also an authorization fee of 27 cents. So it doesn't amount to a whole lot. It will add up throughout the year. We'll have to see what percentage we actually get with credit cards. I think a lot of people use them to buy the boat passes and season passes. Yes.
I noticed on the list that there are higher fees for certain kinds of cards like Amex and some of the other business-related cards. Are we talking about, as a board, limiting what we might accept to keep those fees? Because they're almost double for some of those.
Yeah.
And the chip cards are more expensive, but the technology is, you're gonna have to do that if there's a chip. But are we talking about limiting which ones we accept, like, and we don't take American
Thanks,
Express?
Brown.
We haven't discussed that, and that's
I
something
think
we
we
can.
should. You could look at the.
I would probably propose accepting MasterCard Visa. I think you're gonna get the majority of them. You know.
Yeah, just
That is a
not-
good point. You know, American Express,
Terrible.
that's their fee.
Yeah.
There is no negotiation there. But I think with MasterCard and Visa, we get the
That'd be
service that we
enough.
wanted.
Yeah,
People
Yeah.
generally have one or the other.
yeah.
That's not uncommon either. I mean, Amex.
No, there's a lot of stuff
they
that
just
doesn't
People just
accept
don't take
American
Well,
them.
and those new rewards cards that you have the commercials about, those are almost double too.
Are they?
I mean,
Okay. No, I think we
so
should
you
limit
really
it to
need
the
be
more
specific about what we're
basic
gonna
MasterCard
accept.
Visa.
And Discover are all the same rate.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
add
Yeah,
Discover,
those-
so I'm
that
good with
seems
that.
fair. Is everybody okay with that? I don't know if they have.
And then there will be a primarily at source credit card reading, so we'll have to swipe the cards. we can take it over the phone. It is increase the rate a little bit more if we accept them over the phone. Hopefully not that many are over the phone, but I'm sure we'll get some for sublease agreements, and we'll see though.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that's a good point.
I would say you gotta come in person.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Would we consider passing on the extra cost to the customer?
And that's what I was thinking too. I mean, we can always add a $1 convenience fee or 50 cents convenience fee to cover that if you use a credit card.
You need to check with the attorney, I don't know that you can do that.
I agree, I think you have to offer a cash discount rather
You
than
can
a
offer a cash
fee
discount,
for
not
the
the
credit
charge
card.
her.
Put it on the
You might
list.
have-
Really?
Put that on the list, right?
Yeah.
You might have a rental or something, and you're really gonna wanna be able to take something over the phone to secure it. so.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can discuss all this. I mean, essentially the contract allows us to take all this, but if we want to do the cash discount, like $1 less, we can
Okay.
do that. We can always discuss that a little bit more
Okay.
too.
When would we need to make a decision on this so they'd be ready for, what's turnaround on getting the system up and going?
It'll be quick. Once we sign the contract and we go into business with them, they'll send some down to help set it up. I'd like to get it going in early January, February. That way, once we start selling boat passes, it'd be nice to have up for the entire year. It's $10 a month for the service fee. So if we leave it running, we're not really making a whole lot of sales. It's only $10 a month just to leave it up and running.
So,
If we look into it, he said they can shut it down for seasonally if we wanted to, maybe 4 months during the winter time, but it's not that much extra money, so I think it'd just be easy to have it running year round.
So do we want this as an agenda item that we decide on in January, I would think?
or do we vote on it now pending?
I think we would vote on it now, and then stuff like not accepting
With
certain
clarification
cards,
of other.
the reduction, that's all stuff we come up with, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have a resolution which what we'll accept, and that'd be above and beyond this, that'd just be on our end of it.
Okay.
Um,
So you are seeking a motion?
Yes, everybody just
This
read
evening.
over it and feels comfortable with it, and I'd like to seek a motion to,
We can make that motion.
So I would move that we accept the merchant agreement as presented by Adam, with further research as to fees and credit card acceptance to come forward in January.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? It has been moved and seconded that we accept this credit card proposal with some refinements. May I have a vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just one quick question. Is this debit cards too? Just as long as it's Visa or MasterCard
Yes,
debit
yeah,
cards?
we'll
Okay.
do it, so.
I just wanted to,
actually, debit cards were the cheapest percentage.
well, okay, all right. I missed that, so.
We've moved into the new era.
No.
We've moved into
21st century.
I know, stepping up. 2016 board election update. We did receive one nomination for Marty's current position from Mary Jane Brown. Is here?
She's actually here.
Yeah.
Right there.
Hi, Mary Jane.
We did not receive a nomination for the position Angie is currently filling. So we have sent out cards to solicit nomination. What'll happen now is it'll be a 1-year appointment that we'll appoint in the February meeting. So instead of the full 4-year term, it'll just be a 1-year appointment. Then the following year, we will have to reappoint it for the remainder of the 3 years for the term. That's where we're at now. So there's not going to be an election. We will have an appointment in February. Want a drawdown update? We've reached 3.5 feet. We closed the gate off on Friday. It's kind of a little disconcerting looking at East End with all the water down. But we're down there. Hopefully it cooperates and cools down here. I know for the next week or so it's supposed to be in the 50s and approximately 60 on Christmas. So without a lot of rain, we'll leave it down and hopefully those freezing temperatures come and provide some benefit.
Do I get the cinder block and the tire out of the lake, or do you guys do that?
It's a director job.
We're gonna need to get you boots.
I got boots, I just gotta get a grappling hook's what I
We'll
got.
help you. It'll be fun.
I thought you were gonna say that.
I can help.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to give you.
Yeah, we barely have any water. It was getting close. We kept the pontoon boat in for a while, and the last time we parked, I didn't have to put on the dock. It was kind of skidded onto the mud. All right, small barge contracts.
Dun, dun, dun.
Over the past month, we've had contracts written up and contacted all the companies. Angela wrote up the contract, sorry. Mac from Madison Boats did back out. He decided, he just stated due to personal reasons and business load, he did not want to build it. So we did not receive a contract for him. As far as the B&R and J&J, they both have looked at the contracts and reviewed it. I told them we'll be making the final decision tonight. They both actually signed them. So I'll have to get back and hold them if they completed contract or not. The prices that came in are
Within $2,000 of each other.
$137,643 for B&R, and then J&J came in at $135,350. Talked to them both quite substantially over the past month, and I actually went down last week and met with Joe Breck at J&J. He's Mac's son. He actually helped out with building Dick's first barge. He built all of McCall's barges, and it's actually who McCall is going to go through to build the contract that didn't happen. I really liked him. He had some good quality work outside. There's quite a few barges sitting out there. He's got a lot of work history. He seemed really, really competent. I would like to recommend we go with J&J. It's close. Shipping costs will be about half. It's about 5 hours to the Illinois site. J&J is right outside of Madison. We'll have to meet up again and kind of come up with the final deck configuration. The 20x40 will be the same, the excavator will be the same, but just kind of where we're going to put spuds, that type of stuff. The one concern that I did have when I talked before was empty with the way that excavator up front. If we'd be listing it all forward, he didn't think it'd be a problem. Right off the bat, I liked that he came up with just add another bulkhead in the back with a water pump. So if we need to when we're empty, we can use a little bit of ballast water to kind of level out. Every question I had for him, he picked right off and really eased my concerns. I was down there for quite a few hours. Last time we voted to move in the direction of getting a barge. So my recommendation is to go with J&J. I would like to, if we approve it, I'd like to approve it for a little bit more than the actual cost, the $135,350, maybe not to exceed $145,000. Both the original quotes came back, and there's little things like the pilot house is sitting on the ground. Well, when I was down there, they'd make these nice lifts where we could raise the pilot house up, provide some railing and steps, and give us a place to tuck gas tanks away. So that'd be about $25,000 to $3,000 more. And as we're going over the design, there'll probably be some little tweaks. I don't think we'll go much over, but I'd like to, if we approve it, maybe not to exceed $145,000. That way we do have some wiggle room with design in there.
I have a couple of questions because actually Pam pointed this out to me. B&R went into great detail about navigation lights, anchor lights, and all that stuff. Is this guy going to give us all that too?
Anchor lights aren't on there. Our current barge doesn't have any lights on it. We are not planning on operating this dredge at nighttime.
Okay. I mean, you guys know that. There's a lot of little extra stuff, and I just didn't know if that
Yeah,
was
he had really the only difference would be the anchoring lights and the navigation lights. The other stuff he has listed down, the fuel assembly fuel tank. That's what he considered in his Yamaha Twins turnkey, and I've talked to him about all that.
Okay, that's
really just the only difference would be the navigation lights.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we get.
And ultimately, if we wanted to, we could add that on. But I mean, I don't really think we'll be out at nighttime with that. So just more to break.
Yeah, I think it would be best if we did not dredge at night.
No.
Seems problematic, maybe.
Yeah. Thanks,
So I don't know if
Greg.
there's any more discussion or any questions, concerns.
I just really just had some questions, I guess some comments on the contract real quickly. I presume Angela drafted this up
Yes.
for us? Okay. So there was some things that I really liked about it, obviously, that we're keeping the ownership of the barge with J&J until we actually receive it. So in shipping, they've got the liability of it. Do we have any idea what the shipping cost might be?
Yeah, it'll be less than 4,000.
Okay.
We've talked to a couple different companies. It
Okay.
seem to be in the
2,400 or something?
yeah.
Okay.
I talked to a couple companies. It's like 2,000 to 3,000. So it'll be pretty minimal for shipping costs. And that is not included in the contract.
I know, that's
That'll be
what I was
on us.
asking.
And it says in the contract if they come back with some crazy shipping costs, we can go out and shop it out ourselves.
Okay.
Right.
And then, obviously, they didn't balk at paragraph 8 on
Number
page
8.
3.
Which is
That was-
strangely like number 7 in the
Yeah.
previous one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's not an issue. I did have a couple questions on the insurance. I know that we basically, are requesting that they do carry $1 million, $2 million. Have we seen a certificate from them yet?
We have not.
Okay. Do you know if we have any wiggle room to maybe add some verbiage to that paragraph?
I bet we could.
Couple things I may recommend is to see if they would balk at naming the Conservancy District as additional insured
During the build time.
during the build time. The other thing is, we may want to break down, what exactly we mean by $1 million, $2 million. The main thing I would like to see is to make sure they do have products and completed operations coverage, with the $2 million limit. Because insurance, they have, what they call basically occurrence, which is premise liability, which is a trip and fall on their property. I could care less really about that. But the products and completed operations, if something would break loose on the barge as a result of their construction and their negligence, at least we have something to go back on if somebody gets hurt. So, that products and completed operations is pretty important.
And if after this, I can talk to you afterwards, get an email with that, so I know what to go back to Angela and
Yeah,
actually give them that.
yeah,
Get the word right.
yeah. Sometimes I've seen that excluded, and I just want to make sure it's not.
That's a darn good
Yeah.
idea.
Very good idea.
Your feeling with J&J, is that a deal breaker with them, you think?
I don't think it will be.
Okay.
I really don't. They agreed to have the insurance there, so it's just a little more.
It's usually pretty standard selling some businesses, so.
What extra cost would that incur to him, Lance, just ballpark?
Depends on how the carrier looks at it. It's based on the volume and how much he does, so I can't really say.
Just on one project though, right, or is that?
Well, usually they'll do a blanket on all. But if worst case scenario, if he doesn't have it, we could try to see if they could get it for one project.
Okay, one project.
Most standard policies, it's built in, but sometimes when you get into manufacturing, I've seen them excluded altogether, so.
Lance, would it be reasonable when he already has this covered?
Yeah, it would be,
So he might already have it.
yeah.
Probably a quick
Yeah.
phone call could answer
It's just
that.
something chances are I hope he does, but I just want
That's
to.
why we pay you the big bucks,
It's a
Steve.
good backup.
Was all this in the McCullough?
In McCullough,
The first time we went
I
down
would have
this?
to go back and look, to see that certificate.
He did provide certificates of insurance. I don't
Yeah.
remember the
Yeah, I
actual
can't remember the details,
numbers and
but.
details, but he did.
In the world of construction defects, it's pretty much standard anymore to have that.
Mhm.
I would think
Yeah,
so.
so he probably has.
It probably does, but,
I'd be
But
surprised
you
if
need
he
it
didn't.
clarified.
Yeah, that's,
some of the
it's
higher
important to have it.
exposures, yeah.
Yeah.
You hope you never need it.
For it.
Yeah.
right.
Right.
As soon as you don't.
Exactly. that's what
As soon as
I'm
you
saying.
do. you don't-
And this is our contract, this is not his contract, so we
Correct.
don't even know what he has,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
right,
Right.
without a certificate.
Right.
Right. Other questions for for Adam? Anybody?
Yeah, a couple of questions. First of all, what is the lead time on the barge?
4 to 6 weeks.
Quick. He said I could be here late February, early March.
Oh,
I told him
okay.
we need to have water before we can drop it off.
Sure. Well, that's the other question, is how do you drop it up? Does that take special equipment, or is it?
We'll have to have a crane. It'll be shipped up here. A crane will come in. It'll come in 2 pieces. We set them in the water, kind of pull them together, then pin them together. Everything else should be plug and play. Motors will be mounted on it. Gas tanks will all be mounted. So just kind of set it in the water, push it together, and put the pins in. So it should be plug and play. That is on us. Once they leave the grounds and ship, it is on us. But he said it's not difficult. He can provide instruction. He says if we really need the help, he'll help us out with it. But
There's
I
no
don't think
additional
it'll be too
cost to
bad.
getting all that part done.
No. And then McCullough, actually, when we were talking to him, the sectional barges, they split theirs up when they're going to different job sites. And talking to him, it seems relatively easy to kind of get them to where you need to go and pin them together.
So no ice, and we can put it in the
Yeah. I mean, he said it could be built as early as late February. We've got steel in stock, so.
I think we said May 1st here.
Yeah, we had a delivery by May, but we'll have it way earlier than that.
Other questions from either board or our public?
I have
I think,
a question about our original spec, called out the 12-inch square spud wells, and did not give information on we didn't ask for information on the spuds, and the two men brought in different lengths on those. And I wondered which one you're going to prefer, Adam. I know when I get into Chitwood, I can barely get 16-foot spuds under that. There's one, I think it's Comcast cable. Of course, it can be picked up, but the J&J are the ones that have the shorter spud, and I guess I'm thinking that's enough for what we're doing.
The 16, yeah, when the spuds are down, that'd give us about 8 foot of spuds below, and
Yeah.
if we have 8 foot of water, I don't think we'll be digging.
And I would ask the men you like at J&J if this isn't overkill on these spud sizes, 12 or 10 by 10 on the spuds. This is a lot smaller barge. I think that's the same size you've got on the big barge.
Yeah, we have 12-inch actual I-beams on the big bars.
So we're going down to 10?
Yeah, to 10.
Because this isn't going to have nearly the same pulling power.
No, it's not. And the price of the spud's
It's not
$2,400, so it'd be pretty minimal in either direction that we go.
I just want you happy with that.
Any other questions? John, I appreciate that you actually have a barge. It's nice to have your.
And you know what you're talking about.
There you go.
Once they do get the barge, where do they start? Flip a coin? Where are they gonna start?
No, that comes in March. We have to go through we got to do our
yes.
priority list again, just as we always have. So, yeah, that'll be our next fund.
Your bay. I just have one point. Would you ask the Yamaha dealer if we fall into the government pricing for the outboard motors?
Yep.
I don't know if it's a significant reduction, but they may or may not have a government program.
And I'll contact them. He puts all his motor work through a company, and I'll ask for their information and see if we'd save some money if we just went ahead and purchased them ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll look into that.
Have we answered all your questions? Ron, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, what's wrong with you, Ron?
Are you sick?
There will be a down payment once we start building. It is 50% of the barge and then 100% for the motors and porta jacks. So it'll be a $90,000 payment that we'd wire to him for the start of the build. So there is that. So I guess if we were to approve it, we'd wait till I get the insurance from him.
Straightened out.
And then we could do that.
Okay.
Mike, make the motion.
Okay, I would like to make the motion that we enter into an agreement with J&J Boat Works and the LLCD with the manager's recommendation to purchase the barge.
I would be pleased to second that motion.
Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded that we pursue a contract with J&J Barge.
Slight clarification, do we want to, because he mentioned the 145.
Up to 145.
Oh,
Right,
thank
yeah,
you.
you
Not
do,
to
yeah, that's
exceed- not to
true,
exceed.
yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Lance.
Money's
I would
important.
like to amend that to not exceed the $145,000 as the manager.
Good point.
Very good point.
Do we also need to include in that Adam's ability to check into the motor discounts, tweak?
To check
as we
into all the
did?
discussion that's been a part of this.
Okay. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. It has been moved and seconded, and I'm not going to try to repeat all that. If you need clarification, we'll have to listen to the tape. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Noted. Motion carries. Thank you for your hard work during a holiday time. This
absolutely.
was not an
Fine.
easy few weeks.
Give you a nice nice little 2-month reprieve before we start
Yeah,
getting into
yeah.
where we're gonna dig.
We're at public comment. You guys have been kind of quiet for the most part, saving things up. Gail, you're there.
I got a couple things, one of them have already been answered, but I would like the board to just consider this. Danny Arnold requested that his house be stuck back into the lake. And if you look at an overview of the lake, we do have a low percentage of houses as opposed to the size of our lake. There's an article in the paper today about Eagle Point Resort, and just that resort at Lake Monroe has over 988 people. I think by adding some people that want to be added there on the fringes and so close, just gives us more money. Our lake isn't going to be any more crowded, and there's still plenty of dock space. I never understood, and I don't think they're going to want to be in it, but I never understood at the top of Tunnel Road and South Shore Drive, there's that square where there's like 3 houses excluded, and a friend of mine owns that house now. 2 of those houses, and I don't think she wants to be included, but it was just so weird that all of a sudden these lines come in that's cut like that. And I know that there's a house that at the time weren't sure what to do, and they just opted out. So I just want them, I want you all to be open mind about adding people that are on the fringes that come to you. Danny Arnold's already been voted against it, and I think that could be reconsidered.
What is the thought for this? You know, because I'm stupid about this. Why do we exclude people? Like for instance, why are the lines drawn that way?
It's just the way they were
chose
drawn.
to draw the line. I was there when they chose to draw the lines a certain way. They just had to do something.
Okay,
So let's just take a
okay.
railroad track, and
So,
maybe we should
yeah.
just cut off this corner. And how about this makes a good mark over here, and that's about the right size. And then once it was put in writing, it's like sort of sealed.
And it's not
And
not amendable?
It is amendable, but it's. I was 5 years ago. I was told it was really, really hard to amend, but
Okay.
Adam said it's not that hard. It's just the homeowner has to get a lot of signatures of all the neighbors.
Oh, okay.
Gail, I don't think, just a slight point of fact, I don't think Danny was refused. He kind of went away.
Danny sold his house, and he was only doing that to sell his house.
I know that, but
Yeah.
he.
Okay.
And once he sold his, he was interested in joining the Conservancy
Right.
only to sell his house.
Right.
Then he sold his house, and now he's not interested. He's still in the Conservancy. He lives across the street
Okay,
from me,
okay.
so.
But yeah, but we did not
It
ever
was one of
write
those
that
things,
down.
that's why you don't just let everyone in, because sometimes people only want in
For purpose.
for reasons that aren't for the better of the
Okay.
lake.
But I still think it'd be good whoever bought that house to be in it, because they're only like one house away, and that's more revenue for us.
Yeah.
I would have to go back, because I did some research when Danny originally brought it in, and there are certain legal steps that you have to go through
Yeah.
to get in.
Adam went
And that
over,
never
James
got,
went over that
yeah,
with
it
me.
never,
It's like-
never got to
It's in the
petitioning
minutes.
and all that kind of stuff, right?
Bob went over all of those steps.
Yeah.
With him.
About 3 years ago,
Yeah.
is what I remember.
Yeah, it's pretty
I know
laborious.
this stuff.
Yeah.
That's my first,
Oh, sorry.
speak to that. I have another.
I did want to speak to that. If I recall correctly, there were some properties sort of kind of in the iffy area where individuals were able to opt out at the beginning.
yeah.
Is
that's
that
correct.
not the
That's
case?
correct.
That's
And
right.
now with new ownership, there's this, oh, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And maybe that is something
We
that,
should look at it.
there is a process, it is there, and maybe we should have a link to that on the website. So that it's out there, and it's not a matter that people have to work hard to find it, it's work damn hard to get in, but the door is open
Yeah.
if you follow the law.
Well, and it should fall on those folks rather than on our staff, I
That's
think, to
right.
be.
Right.
I
But
think
if there's a
it's-
link out there on the
Good point.
website,
Yeah,
that would be
and
an
it
easy
spells it
way to
out.
refer
Who
It
does
has to
the-
go with the people themselves have to get all the signatures, our staff.
Right.
Yeah, right.
It's
yeah.
already set up that way.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, my second thing is that now that we have this foundation, I'm excited about it. It was discussed with me about 6 months ago. Someone mentioned the idea of a foundation. But I was just thinking, and I'm making this suggestion, another just suggestion, is that we have so many people here on 4th of July. I would like to propose that we have a 4th of July festival, and that's something that might go under Sue, but we can think about it, having maybe a band out there. There's so many food trucks in Bloomington, food trucks that come out. People come and spend the afternoon or early evening hours while they're waiting forever for the sun to go down. You know, they have like relay races for kids where they pay like 50 cents to enter the race. And I'd be interested in working on that, and I've already given my name to Sue, and it's under seems to come under the foundation guidelines that I just read. So I just wanted to mention that. I talked to James about it, and I talked to Adam about it. And as we move forward, thinking about doing more activities at Riddle Point.
You're the second person to mention food trucks and music to me this week. I don't know if you've been talking to the other, but it's
I
funny.
don't know, but I love that idea.
It sounds good.
I love food trucks.
Thanks, Kim.
I will just
Yeah, good
update, the 501c3 is technically not a foundation, that's a different
Okay,
entity.
whatever this is.
It is a charity organization under the 501c3 laws. It doesn't exist yet. It is a theory. And I have $1,500 toward our minimum $3,000 pledge.
We need
before
pledges,
I meet
people.
with the attorney to enact the paperwork. So right now, we're sitting. I'm starting to get information out to people, and I will hopefully, over the next couple of weeks, target. But I really do need possible donors that I can send information to. I need names and addresses, either email or regular mail.
And this becomes once we do this, then it's
Yeah,
tax deductible.
it doesn't exist until it exists. We need a minimum of 2 weeks after the attorney files the paperwork. I will not touch that paperwork until I have 3,000 pledged. And no money up front, because we want it to be tax deductible, and you can't get that tax deductible until the entity is in place.
It's a catch-22.
That's right. And then the foundation comes in because we will not be investing the money. We will not be managing that. Those monies will be managed through the Monroe County and Brown County foundations. They're set up to do this very thing for small entities. So we'll have a little overhead, we pay them, but none of the paperwork stuff.
Susan, do you just need a verbal pledge? Is there a formal piece of paper?
Verbal, written, email, I don't care.
Okay,
I'll
all right.
reconfirm it, but until I reach that magic goal, I don't go to the
Okay.
attorney.
And solicitations for the 319 grants come out in March. We need a partner entity.
Isn't the deadline the end of
So
January
the
though, to file?
ideal.
I saw that this week.
You need to send a letter to the organization, intent to participate in May. I think it's May 16th is the day. So if you don't send a letter to participate in May, you don't get in. This is for 2017. So we need to have the foundation set up prior to May 16th, I'm gonna say. So, and that's, we could get $100,000 free money. We would only have to pay 25 grand of that. We get 75 grand free money if we just write this grant and tie it to your foundation or the city of Bloomington.
Well, and the sooner we do it, the more
Correct.
time we would have to get that 25 matching and not come out of that.
Susan's looking for names of not
I'll
just
tell you.
us, but of people that,
Potential puppets.
that you
Yeah.
know,
$10
that aren't
yeah.
coming to these meetings.
Yeah,
you know.
$5 a person.
Right.
Who cares?
There's 3 families in here that participated in the Salmon Harbor Weir project. We've got some money in there. I don't think they're gonna say anything, but I would like to donate, I would like to pledge $100 out of that fund. And I don't think I'm
I'll
gonna.
write you down.
Yeah, write me down for $100. I'll
And
send
she
you an
knows where
email.
you live.
She does. She knows
David
where
has
Salmon
his
Harbor.
email. He's on the list.
Is there another way we should be publicizing this to the whole?
Just send a list to the listserv.
Right.
Send it-
Well, have we
Adam
done
put it in
that?
the last newsletter.
That was in the newsletter.
I saw that, but should we send it, I mean.
I don't know how much soliciting we can do to raise money for.
I don't know
another
either, that's why I'm asking.
organization.
If the board would want to authorize postage, we could do a mailing, but there's no money right now to do a mailing. So.
Is that something we could authorize
How
then?
much
You
would it
could.
cost to
You
mail
could authorize
something
a
like
postage
this
to
to
do
the?
anything.
It'd be postcard rate,
If you
right?
did a postcard, it's
Yeah,
35 cents.
35 cents a
So,
go.
Okay,
It's
so
not
give me
gonna
a
go as a
figure, 'cause I can-
postcard,
I
it'll be a
can-
sealed
500,
50 bucks,
500 people.
Wait, wait.
You don't want to do the math,
More
you do the
than that.
math.
If you're contemplating, it's not going to go as a postcard, it's going to be a sealed envelope, it's going to be done right.
Oh, good.
This is a
Okay, so she's
fund
saying.
development
for
process, and a
class mail.
postcard doesn't cut
So
it.
46 cents.
$250.
I'd be willing to contribute to that.
Is that something?
I would pay for that.
Is that
Oh,
something
really?
we,
Oh.
we want to do
If we want to
tonight?
do that.
Is that something we want to do tonight, or we need to think about it?
That is something that is chosen.
Well, we need to move on it because we have till the end of January to get.
Well, it's
We
not
wait
there
till
yet.
20th.
But it's certainly
Okay.
doable.
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's the point of this. We're trying to raise money for this, the LLC to be tax deductible.
Right.
So that when we pay for fireworks, we're getting to write it off on our
Right.
income tax.
Susan, some clarification. Are you asking the LLCD board to pay for the postage for these mailings?
If you would like to consider that.
I think we should do it.
Okay, I'll make the motion that the LLCD participate with
I'll eat the
the,
paper. That'll be my contribution.
okay.
You can pay postage.
Participate with the postage for the mailings to the freeholders and,
I need everybody in this room to give me potential
got
donors
it.
before they leave or send me an
Use
email.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of,
Where do we pull that out of? We've been-
Here's the
Oh,
thing, they
I mean,
can't-
we've got,
They can't
it's
do
not a
that.
money question, it's a
Is it okay
technicality.
to do?
Yeah, us
Yeah,
helping
so-
another organization with our government.
that's why I asked her.
money.
Yeah.
Now, see, we cannot make a donation as the LLCD, but she's saying we can pay the postage.
I think you can.
What do you want us to get an attorney opinion? He's gonna call her
I don't-
anyway.
What do you think about that, Bob?
Can we make the motion with an
I didn't-
attorney's
I think it
opinion?
should be, it'd have to
Okay.
be private donations. I don't
Or
think the
you
board-
can
I don't
send
think
it
like
out.
the board helping some other,
You could send out the mailing.
Well, I don't know
That's
if we
the
can do
alternative.
that, because now we're soliciting.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be.
We
I don't
need-
think we
we
can
need
do
the-
that.
That
We
would
need the
work.
attorney input.
Okay, we'll get the attorney
Yeah,
opinion.
I think there's.
I withdraw my
ways.
motion
We got
till we
Parks
get an
and Rec
attorney.
Foundation.
So, Sue, unless you-
$175 to find out if we spend 200.
No, really?
to find out if we can legally spend 250, or we could illegally spend 250 and it cost us
Yeah.
20,000.
I'll pay for it. I'll pay for
Well,
it.
then you
Okay.
just get with her.
I will.
All right, so we're maybe jumping the gun a little bit.
Okay.
Can I,
Yep.
I kind of agree with the idea of asking the attorney about this. I'll give you the $250 for postage.
And I won't collect.
I'll split it with you, John. I'd already said it. I'll split it with you.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay.
just a can't walk back in a quarter.
We're already up to 1,800. We got 300 just now, so.
No, but
Thank you.
that's for postage, not for.
I know, but that's not including what John and Sue were offering.
Thank you.
That's good.
Thanks. Okay. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question, for clarification. I'm still claiming to be new, so I just need some input on dredging, if we could. On whose responsibility is it to manage the hours on dredging? There were, as I understand, a lot of hours not used this year. And who's, is it the board's, is it yours, Adam?
It's mine. Towards the end, we just got low water, and I really couldn't. We're using up a lot of those hours now. We won't have any disposal site prep beginning of next year. Because we're using a lot of those hours now for prep over Possum Truck. But yeah.
So when there's a new barge that comes in, you have two barges, you're still gonna have the same crew, as I understand it. So any funds that weren't spent in 2015, do those funds get carried over into 2016?
No, because we still have the line number that we budget for. It
It's
doesn't
just-
carry over.
So,
And then we'll have the meeting in March to go over where we want to dig first, to go over the service zones. And that kind of that'll set the order that we go in and where we're gonna dig at that March meeting.
So you're asking where the money is, right, that we didn't spend on this?
no, as I heard the survey that was done, the
Yeah.
number one concern of the lake was dredging.
Yeah, yeah.
For all the freeholders. And it obviously is a concern, that it's been brought up in every meeting that I've attended. So,
And it will continue.
and probably years gone by, from what I understand. So, I'm just curious as to how it worked.
Yeah.
Who says, okay, this week we need to get this much dredging done, and that type of thing.
It's kind of, it kind of goes down, basically, as I mentioned, we just went through the budgeting process, so we allot so much money of how much they can spend total. So there is a cap that you could spend every year. We do come in, I think it's the March meeting, and we do kind of a priority listing of what the, priorities will be from a dredging standpoint.
Yeah,
That will go dredge out, and then they go out and dig as much as they can, per the hours until we basically run out of time, or in this case, the water just got too low, that we couldn't get it out there
And
anymore.
we'll be shuffling some stuff around. This year did some private rip-wrapping jobs early on. We ran out of water. Next year I'll be doing anything private at the end of the season after we actually use up our funds and time.
That's a good idea.
Cynthia.
And how do you access how this is going? Like, is it Benchmark? I understand there's a person leaving, a person I do not know, but I keep hearing his name. And I know when the water got low and the work wasn't done. And I look around the room and I think most of them are like me. You work and you're accountable to someone. And when I hear, I believe it was 200, is it 200, is it higher, is it lower? What's the exact number that wasn't used?
I'd have to go look. I mean, we're using up hours now.
Yeah.
It's way less than 200.
That's 5 weeks of a workman or a workwoman's life. That's a lot of
Highly
hours.
weather variable. We had the huge rains this spring. I had to go out and do disposal or the
Crops
debris
had to be-
removal twice. And
This was a pretty weird summer. I mean, we've had worse floods, but with the rains, they really
A lot of
deterred
debris that
the
you
work.
had to pick up
They had-
first and then,
Right.
yeah.
I think though that I asked you in an earlier session how that worked with this man that we do not know. And there was a feeling that I walked away from that it was partly contingent upon his schedule and whether or not he was gonna work or he had other things to do. And
no,
I
he
am
works
just
during the
not.
summertime, and we have schedules, and he works during the fall time, the harvest. We got to realize it's not a salary position. There's no benefits. We can't find anybody that's going to come out here and work full time out here. It's just not enough money.
It looks like a well-paid position to me.
Up to-
37 point something dollars an hour.
Yeah, with
Plus
no
another
benefits.
18 for an assistant. That's a well-paid position. Can you not find
It's
someone
not
else?
very many hours a year is the one big drawback.
Yeah.
So it's not someone that's gonna be, it's not a position someone could survive on.
Yeah, it's only
So
600
You're
hours.
looking for someone that is seasonal
Retired.
or retired or something like that, yeah. So it limits your
Yeah.
pool a
Plenty of
lot.
retired people around Bloomington. And I-
Also a skill.
It's a very physical job.
yeah,
It's a very
okay.
skilled job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't wanna just let anyone run your 80,000 pound excavator in the lake.
Yeah. But the point is that you have one, and now you're getting another barge.
Second.
And who's going to see that this work gets done? I mean, first of all, really appreciate the board. We're great appreciators of volunteers, and you're all volunteers, and I know you take a lot of crap, and I know you got a lot going on, and I know you got a lot of conflicting opinions about things. That's the nature of the job. We're really appreciative, but who sees that the work gets done? 'Cause
Next
the
year,
work
we'll have an
must be
operations
done.
supervisor sitting at that end of the table. He's
Yeah,
the
we
one,
work in the summer.
he's the one that's gonna be accountable next year. Adam will give his manager's report on February 3rd. That's our year-end meeting. Those questions that you have will be answered on February 3rd. And then moving forward, James has been promoted to operations supervisor.
Right.
So that'll be
he's our
his
accountability
main
guy.
task is to make sure
Okay,
that these items are
accountability is
getting done.
key. We all live in an
And during the summer,
accountability
we
world.
work. If we can work, we work. If it's lightning, we can't work. If it's storming, we can't work. Really, the only time we run into issue with schedules from staff is just during harvest season, and we were out there as much as we could be during the summer.
We did have 4 pushboat operators this year too.
Yeah.
So that kind of slows down
Let me ask
quite
you
a bit.
another tangential, and I hope I'm not out of line in doing this, but since we're here and we've heard various opinions. We lived at the East End, and right now we're looking at the tundra right now. I mean, it's incredible. And we've heard responsible people that have a role in all this, say various things. Does the board believe that this lake will be saved? Will the East Bay be saved, or are you under the impression that, well, it's gonna fill in and we'll just kind of dredge a channel? Because we made a sizable investment, and the nature of I've lived in Bloomington most of my life. The nature of this lake has changed drastically. You're getting people who are willing to build nice houses here, make an investment, and you want those people. But they're not gonna do it if it's a foregone notion that this lake is filling in. What does the board think? Is it your mission to see that this doesn't happen? Are you in maintenance mode with channels and Chitwood?
And we're trying to bring the lake back more usable than it is now.
Yeah.
But this is a process of learning here, because some of the things that we're from, and I'm just speaking for myself, some of the things we're doing are kind of a stopgap measure, and we're looking at other ways to try to make it so it isn't a stopgap measure by creating ponds, collecting ponds. We're really still learning. I learning this. He's been here all his life, and I'm a newbie, so.
And I think, we do have a tremendous battle in front of us, because of the amount of sediment coming into the lake. It is a real task to keep up with. And, as a board, I think we're doing everything we can to try to slow it down, although it's like trying to climb a mountain. The main difficulty that we have is kind of a balancing act. As you mentioned, I think that survey came out and said, that everybody wants us to dredge more. Flip side of that, the survey also came out and said that nobody wants to pay any more taxes.
Right.
And so it's a real balancing act to try to do as much as we can do and keep our budget at a certain level. And so that's kind of, we're working kind of with parameters, so at times it feels like, we're going out with one hand behind our back and,
Sure.
Fighting this battle.
We have more money, we can have 2 crews. But if we don't have the money, we can't have 2 crews.
We have more
And
houses at the lake.
who's responsible for the process of saying, okay, we need more money, so therefore looking into grants and those type things?
That would be a board, in terms
Board,
of,
yeah.
Board
in
is-
terms of tax increases or.
We're looking for more
Not just
grants.
tax increases, but pursuing grants.
Yeah, that's
Some
what
of the
we're-
northern Indiana lakes have some pretty significant grants, and
Yeah.
and then there are some of the grants that also require some contribution
We've
from.
had a lot of grants.
And we've
Yeah.
had a lot of
We've had a
grants,
lot.
and actually, a little bit of history going back, that's one of our disadvantages right now, is unfortunately, we got funded a lot. We were very successful in getting some of the layer grants and things of that nature. There was one year that when we got started, we got over 100,000. And they're kind of spreading the wealth right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately. They basically have told us, they're still giving us some money, but they're trying to kind of distribute it out to other parts and other lakes in the state right now. So, we're pursuing that all the time, but I know the state's really cut back on a lot of that, and they're kind of spreading the wealth a little bit as well, so.
It's unique challenges. I mean, the lakes up north are glacial lakes. They don't suffer from sedimentation.
Right.
That's right.
I want
Well,
to
they-
say the
well, they
original
do,
plan
not
for
to
the
this
lake was a
degree, but-
150-year life expectancy.
Mhm.
So they said originally. I mean, so we're fighting sedimentation. That's what reservoirs. That's what kills them.
Didn't you tell me that was the first sentence in your limnology class?
Yeah, that's the fate of every reservoir ultimately, sedimentation. So it's a matter of just how much we can move and how much money we have to do it.
Well,
But what is the sentiment? Like when you meet, do you all say, well, it's gonna happen, but we're just gonna keep the channels clear? Because people like us,
No.
who make an investment and love the lake, we love the lake, but we're not gonna live on a channel. And right now, we're on a channel. We have a nice vista, but it's all ground. And quite frankly, it's almost ground at the best of times that we've experienced yet. We've only been here a few months, and that's not a long-term investment for us. And so, like, you have a dredging committee, you've studied it. What really are you thinking? Can you beat this problem? Is there a serious heart to beat it?
I think the heart's here.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If I may, I was born and raised on the lake. I
Yeah.
mean, I basically at 1 week old, I was, out on the water. And so I've definitely got a major investment.
They were trying to drown you, you
Yeah.
just didn't.
Yeah, probably.
That's
So,
a little cold.
definitely, the investment's there. And, the problem is trying to find the right answers.
Yeah,
And I think, it's just gonna be something that we're gonna have to continue to try. We're gonna have to, some things may fail, some things not. It's just even like on the small barge project, there's a different opinion there. Well, it may work, may not work, maybe there's better options, but let's try it and see what works and, move on and do everything that we can. So it's an agenda item, that probably envelops over 75% of our time.
Right.
And it's not gonna go away.
Yeah, and
We
it
know
won't
that,
go
so.
away.
These are excellent questions.
But
Gail's
we'll
got one
continue.
more thing to say.
I just want to say to you, I've been here for 32 years, and I was here when the process of, the city was going to let the lake fill in, and that's why I became a conservancy. And people work diligently. This has been the issue all along, and people have been working on it all along. For a long time, we couldn't do anything because we spent the $100,000, I think, on one of those grants, just because we had to have surveys and permission and get this. So we had all this lead time, and there was just work, and ever since the last 20 years, the main push of this lake has been, we need to dredge it, we need to do this, and I think everybody has put their heart and soul, and I've been in committees and people have come here, so it's not like we're just talking about it now. This has been 20 years.
Oh, I understand.
And
It's been talked about for a long time. There've been a lot of people that have come and gone.
Yeah, but I think that it's been diligently worked on, we've had a lot of success, and if you had seen the lake before the Conservancy took over and after, it's a whole
have.
different, yeah. it's a
That's the
whole
only
different
reason
thing.
we're here.
Yeah.
We looked at a lot of lakes. We had no intention of coming here, and we finally realized that there have been a lot of changes,
It's
but.
so much healthier than it was, and I just think everybody's working as hard as they can. And
Yeah,
really
I guess the question is it a resolvable problem? And are the means available? Is there enough energy and intent to find solutions? And that's the question we ask ourselves when we think, not quite sure we want to do this, not quite sure we want to encourage other people to do it either. It's a beautiful lake. We're in heaven, but something's got to change. And if it's realistically not going to change, you know, we'd like to know that.
If you look at the biometric study, we're losing ground.
Oh, yeah.
We're not moving out as much sediment
No.
as is coming in every year,
Yeah.
period.
right.
Look,
Nor are we able to within our means at this point. But that doesn't mean that we can't find a way to do it. I mean, I love it too, and I just would never want to give up on it. I mean, until the day somebody says, that's it, we can't do it.
Yeah.
Technology continues to advance.
It does.
That's right.
It does,
You know,
Michael,
Adam,
that's right.
thank you for so candidly addressing what was going on with the dredging. But then the bottom line is, there are 5 weeks of dredging that didn't happen.
And we'll be using up most of those hours now. I mean, we'll use a lot of those hours in the springtime for disposal site prep.
But we can't
We'll do
dredge
that
if we
now.
can't dredge.
I understand
Okay,
that.
I mean,
Yeah, I
if the
understand that.
conditions are such
Variable
that they
job.
can't get out there with the big dredge,
Absolutely.
we can't, they couldn't do it. And I live on the lake, and so, I mean, permanently, we live on the
Sure.
lake. So I see when the lake is too low for them to even get out there.
Yeah.
Susan?
I would just add that, you know, if we had all the money in the world, we could certainly save the lake and deal with the problem. But in the last 3 years, there's been a huge shift with this board, both in civility, and thank you for that, but also in an awareness that the answer is not dredging. Dredging is a means to an end for certain channeling purposes. Part of the answer is preventing the silt from coming in. So, I mean, there's studies being done at IU, there's students working on doctorate studying the delta formations and the value of that. And part of the reason to establish a partnership with a 501c3 is to support the grants, which will help to prevent, find ways, working with soil and water conservation to keep it out. So it's not just removing it to channel for people,
Just to
it's,
keep
this
it from
board has
coming in.
come full circle. And it's been a dramatic change and a welcome change to an awareness that you have to keep it from coming in. If you can take it out, but it's gonna be right back
But
in.
if that happened today, there's still a mammoth amount of dredging to be done.
That's a fact. And if you
That
shut
is
down
true.
the lake for 3 years and dredged it, your problem would be over.
And there are lakes
That's
that
an
are on a
option.
3-year plan.
We appreciate your input. That's how we work, and
Yeah,
we're all
and
in
we
this
so
together.
appreciate the board. We like coming here, we like knowing what's going on. We want to know it's going to change, or that people are looking for creative solutions, and, because we'd like to stay, but,
If you
know,
just didn't live next door to those horrible people.
that's right.
They're my
Those
neighbors.
lot
I
parties,
see
stay
the
away.
All right.
But thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next meeting, if we're gonna wrap up here, y'all probably have a holiday party to go to or something, I'm hoping.
Just a glass of wine.
January 20th will be 2016 right back here, at this incredible
Lovely place,
spot.
yes.
So, Merry Christmas, thank you for coming. Can I say Merry Christmas? Is that supposed to be? Can I have a motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, John, you always do that.
Okay.
I second.
Move we adjourn.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Merry Christmas.